Hey, what's going on? My name is Anthony, also known as Lending Bent. I am a mortgage loan originator here in the great state of Florida. I provide financing for real estate. So if you ever have any questions or you need help finding financing for your products and your deals, please feel free to reach out to me so we can structure something. Today's video is an update of what's going on within the mortgage space. Recently in the state of Florida, we had two hurricanes recently that just passed us. The most recent one was Hurricane Milton, which did a good amount of damage here in the Florida area or here in Florida. I would say it, and with me living here in Florida, there's a lot of things that I see that has not probably hit the news yet, but in St. Pete, it's pretty bad over there. A lot of houses flooded, a lot of cars flooded, and a lot of neighboring areas. A lot of the Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, those areas were flooded out pretty bad. And there's some areas as we speak right now in this time of this video still doesn't have electricity or water. I know one client or a couple clients that I've closed that I spoke to recently, they still haven't had electricity going on 4 or 5 days now. Um, and it's tough. One of my clients, it was his birthday today, and I reached out to him. We were having a conversation, and he said that, all his plans got canceled because he still doesn't have electricity and water in his home. So everything's pretty much pushed to the side until they get that up and going, which is crazy because this hurricane did cause a lot of damage. And I think with the other hurricane that came through Florida, Helene, with Milton, uh, they've estimated that the total damage here in Florida, or I think as a whole, is about $1.5 billion, which that's a lot of money. And I definitely think that might be on the lower end from the damage that I have seen in person. I've seen a lot of houses that are in pretty rough shape, and some areas that they still have still water that they don't know where to do with this water because it's still there. Places that I have never seen all my life living in Florida are flooded, some areas. So that was something that I was shocked about. But Florida is going to bounce back for sure, and we're going to make sure that we stick together during these times and help as many individuals and family members as much as possible, especially with us having a shortage in gas right now. There's a lot going on, but people are running off a lot of generators. So if you are in the Tampa Bay area and you have some extra gas, and let's say you work from home and your neighbors need it, or family members that need it to power their generator, this is a time to be very courteous and help as much as you can, especially if you have the flexibility to work from home and stuff like that. I've tried my absolute best to stay home to allow those that need gas for their generators to have that gas to power their home and refrigerators so they don't lose food or anything like that. With the current hurricane that happened here in Florida, Hurricane Milton, I do want to talk about flood insurance. I've said it in previous videos, and flood insurance is not required if your property is not in a flood zone. So a lot of people think, oh, the only time I need flood insurance is when my property is in a flood zone, which is true when you are, or the property that you are purchasing is in a flood zone, or FEMA, they do a revaluation of your area. And let's say when you purchased your home, it was not in the flood zone. Now, 2 years later, your property is now considered a flood zone. You will need to get flood insurance for your property. And it's better to secure your property because with homeowners insurance, it doesn't have flood coverage. So you have to have a separate policy for flood. So in case something does happen, such as flooding, that insurance will cover that. If you, let's say, for example, your property is not in the flood zone, you have never had flood insurance, and this past hurricane flooded your house, now you have a situation that you're going to be involved with homeowners insurance of getting paid out to get your property refixed or restored. So to avoid that, that's why when your property is located in a flood zone, you have to have flood insurance to better secure you and the lender as well. If your property is not in a flood zone and you just went through this hurricane and you said, you know what, I want to be safe. I want to be safe than sorry, and I would like to get flood insurance. You can get flood insurance on your own, even though your property is not in a flood zone. Some people do that, and just to better secure themselves. It's completely up to you. It is recommended with some people. They will say, I don't need flood insurance, but we live in Florida. I want to get flood insurance just to better protect myself. You can do that. It's completely up to you. Policies, depending on your area and your house, it might not be that expensive, but you can reach out to me. I am not an insurance agent, but I work with a lot of individuals that are in the insurance space that help me and my clients, so we can check that out for you. So feel free to reach out to me if you decide to get flood insurance, or if you want us to check your location of your area and see how close you are to a flood zone, or if you think it's ideal to get flood insurance. One of my favorite topics, I wouldn't say one of my favorite, but one of the topics that always pops up every year, especially with the state of Florida, if there is an active hurricane going on and you are under contract, let's say you have a closing date for Thursday, and Hurricane Milton was coming to touch land on Wednesday, you're not going to close on Thursday. So the reason why lenders don't close in that situation, or why they will not close, is, you can probably guess by now, they want to make sure that the property is not damaged. They want to make sure that the property is still there. Because let's say you got all your paperwork done and you pretty much have a clear to close, or you have a clear to close, and then so happens this hurricane pops up out of nowhere, hypothetically, and they say this hurricane is coming directly to the location of your home, and you're supposed to close on Thursday, and the hurricane is coming on Wednesday. It's safe to say that a lender will freeze lending and say, we need to make sure that your property will not be damaged. So the hurricane comes Wednesday and it passes through where your property is located and it's gone. Thursday, they want to make sure, with pictures or proof of some sort, or have an inspector go back out to the property to make sure that your property was not damaged. If your property is damaged, those repairs need to be done before a lender will lend that money out to you. You have to understand that lenders are lending you hundreds and thousands of dollars depending on the type of home that you are buying. So they want to secure that the asset that they're lending you money on. They want to make sure that the property is not damaged, or the roof blew off and now you are likely to default because there's no roof on this property. So they want to make sure everything's good. That's the most important part. Now, if you're a home buyer and you are on the other side of the table, you as a home buyer, and you are closing as an active hurricane, you want to make sure also that the property is good to go, no damage. You don't want to move into the property all of a sudden. Let's say if the lender doesn't do anything to secure or do a re-inspection to make sure the property has no damage. You move into the property and your house is flooded. Now you just came to the closing table with your down payment and you just received this money. Now you have to worry about making your mortgage and renovating this flood going on in your property. So you want to make sure, as a homeowner, especially if there's a hurricane or a natural disaster going on, that you go over there, make sure that the property is good to go, or have your agent make sure that the property doesn't have any damage before closing. It's very strongly recommended to do that. Although lenders will do it automatically and make sure the property is not damaged, but I would also take cautions as well to go check out the property, see maybe if there's things leaking in the roof that you may have not seen when you did your inspection and stuff like that. Especially with a lot of rain coming from a hurricane, you can always double check these things to see what's going on, especially after a storm like that with the property. So I would recommend, especially if you have a hurricane going on and you're buying a property, after the hurricane passes, it's probably best to go check it out, see if there's any wet spots in the roof or in the ceilings, or any wet spots in the walls, dry walls, or anything like that, to see if anything's going on, leaks from the windows that might look obvious, so that you know, okay, what am I getting myself into? Because when a lender sends an appraiser back out there, they want to make sure internally, yes, they're going to look for wet spots and stuff like that, but they may miss certain things, or certain small things, which you may catch. So I would always recommend go back to the property, check it out, and then the inspector would definitely go out there as well to inspect on behalf of the lender, make sure there's no severe damage done to the property. But if you're closing during a time where there's a natural disaster, you have to understand that closing will be delayed because these things have to be corrected, repaired, or they have to be rectified to make sure that there's nothing going on with the property that may cause an issue. So if you're closing during a hurricane, just be prepared to know that there's probably going to be a delay with your property and with your closing just because of those reasons. And especially if you're moving to Florida, if you're someone that does not live in Florida and you decide to move over to Florida, welcome. You'll love it here. The weather is great. We do have things called hurricanes, which every state has their own individual things. So I know for California, they have wildfires, earthquakes, stuff like that. In Florida, we prone to have a lot of hurricanes. So that's just a natural disaster that we typically get every year. So every year we have hurricanes. Hopefully we don't have a strong hurricane that hits Florida again. Hopefully that doesn't happen and cause any damage in the future. I think we've had enough so far, especially with 2 back-to-back hurricanes. But moving to Florida, one big thing that I would strongly recommend as a Floridian myself is one of the biggest things, especially if you're moving into a home, is looking to getting a generator, a portable generator. You can get them from Home Depot. Well worth the money because I look at it like this. If you get a portable generator and let's say there's a hurricane going on and you lose electricity, like some areas right now after Hurricane Milton, you can start up a generator. Yes, you will need gas, so prepare to have gas on hand. But you can plug up your refrigerator or deep freezer that you have food in, and you can use that to power your fridge or deep freezer so you don't lose hundreds of dollars of food. So if you're out of electricity for a while for the local electrical company in the area, then okay, I have my food ready to go. Maybe you have a electrical stove that you can use outside or gas propane stove that you can use outside. You have food to cook so you can survive while they get the power back up and going. So I would strongly recommend looking into a generator. That's something that I would say is essential when you're moving to Florida and owning a home, is getting or looking into a generator. When you're going into a hurricane, I would strongly recommend as well taking before and after pictures of your property. So I would say if the hurricane is coming today, or let's say the hurricane's coming today. The day before, I would go outside, take pictures of my property, the sides of the property and the back of the property, and inside as well, and try to take as many pictures as possible and pictures after. So if there's any damage or if there was damage during the hurricane, you have picture proof to show this is what my property looked like before the hurricane. This is what it looks like now after the hurricane. If you ever have to put a claim in, they're going to send the insurance company. They are going to send someone out to the property to make sure that these damages are legitimate, and they will have someone inspect the property as well. But at least you have pictures and proof to back up your claim if you ever have to go down that route. So I would recommend getting before and after pictures to put in a lockbox. Your important documents, if you have not invested in a lockbox already, I would strongly recommend it. That can save you a lot of headache, especially if anybody has gone through the process. If you lost your social security card, or you lost everything, your social security card or driver's license, you know how much documents you will need to bring, or how much of a pain it will be to get get a new or reissued document like a driver's license, social security card, or a passport if you don't have any documents at all to prove where you live, stuff like that. So I strongly recommend getting a lockbox, put important documents in there. So if there is a fire, you can always use that lockbox, open it, get your documents that you need to carry on with your life. But 3 things when moving into a home in Florida. Doesn't have to be Florida. I think moving into a home in general, I would invest in a generator, maybe some shutters, and a lockbox to have all your important documents in there in case something happens to your property. You can grab it before you run out the door, or you could come back to the property after the natural disaster and find that lockbox and have your documents ready to go. So especially right now in Florida, after these 2 hurricanes that we recently just had, FEMA has offered a helping hand to giving some funds for individuals that lost electricity for 24 hours or went through some damage of some sort. With that, I am going to make a video soon showing how to do a FEMA application to help guide people through the process. So if you are someone that lost electricity for 24 hours or suffered severe damage from the hurricane, you can fill out a FEMA application to get assistance from FEMA to help you out. They might not give you $100,000, but they will give you some money to help you during this time, which I look at it as a positive note that you're getting something better than nothing. So hopefully they are able to help you and your family out in this time, especially with hurricane stuff like that. And it doesn't just pertain to Florida. I know neighboring states can also fill out this FEMA application because they went through the hurricane as well. With hurricane went through hurricane or natural disasters, such as states as some areas in Georgia, North Carolina, or the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, some areas in Alabama, especially Florida. So definitely look into that, and I will be making a video soon to talk about how to go through the FEMA application. With that, I know we talked a lot about hurricanes and what's going on in Florida, especially with all these hurricanes or back-to-back hurricanes that just happened here in Florida. And people have questions about buying and selling real estate with flood damage. With that being said, if you want to make sure, let's say a year passed by, a hurricane has never came to Florida after these two recent ones, and 3 years from now, you decide to buy a house. No hurricane came back to Florida at all. Never seen a hurricane again, right? Hopefully. And you want to make sure that this property never flooded or had flood damage. There's many ways that you can check. A home inspector will be able to tell you if this house has flood damage at this current time and moment, and you probably be able to smell it when you walk into the property and smell the mold. But another thing that you can find out to see if there was ever a claim for the house being flooded or that piece of real estate that you're looking for has ever flooded. When you do insurance or when you go to get a quote on insurance or bind an insurance policy when you're moving into a new home, you can ask your insurance agent to see if there was ever any claims on this property. And if there were claims, what were they for? And they would be able to tell you, yes, this property had flood damage or it flooded at one point, so you know what's going on before you move forward. Buying a flood home, especially if someone did all the necessary repairs to get the house back to where it needs to be, you may not have to worry about damage as much, especially if they did a good job. Now, if someone didn't do a great job with fixing the flood damage, it would build up mold and other issues with the property, which you would be able to catch right away, and you can negotiate the price if that's something that you want to do or move forward with, especially if you're looking to purchase a home that was flooded. So you can use that as a negotiation tactic to get the house at a better price if you are buying. If you are selling a property that had flood damage, I would strongly recommend getting the necessary repairs done so that you can at least get the market value of your home, and do it the right way. Don't do it the cheap way, because when you do it the cheap way and cut corners, it's going to pop up in the home inspection report. And if it pops up in the home inspection report, it can cause issues depending on the year of your home when it comes to getting insurance. So I strongly recommend being upfront, or at least doing the necessary repairs needed to get the property back to where it needs to be to sell the property. I want to talk about down payment. So this has been a conversation that I always have with clients and potential clients so far. There's a lot of people that have side hustles and side hustles or a side business that they do and make money. So let's say I had a person at one point that they love shoes, they love sneakers, they buy and resell shoes. That's something that they love to do as a hobby. They had a lot of vintage shoes, so they were able to sell a large chunk of their shoes to save up for their down payment for their home. That's something that you can do. It has to be seasoned for 60 days. But if you're someone that has a hobby, and let's say you work on cars, you love certain cars, and you have, let's say, a R32 Skyline, and you love that car, you got the car as a gift years ago, you fixed the car up, and you want to buy a property or you want to buy a home for you and your family, and you said, okay, I'm going to sell this car to have enough down payment to put down for my home, you can do that. That's completely, you can do that. That's fine. Now, it depends on when you do it. That's where I come in to help you structure the proper game plan to make it work for you without any headache, and make sure that we do it the right way so that you can close on the home. But your down payment can really be anything. If you, let's say for example, you love cutting hair, you have a W-2 job, and on the side you cut hair, you can cut hair, put that money to the side, use it as a down payment. If you flip shoes and you love shoes and you decide to sell a good chunk of your collection of shoes, you can do that for a down payment for your home. The past example, if you have a car collection, right, or two cars, two vintage cars, you have a R32 Nissan Skyline, and you got it as a gift years ago, you fix it up, you love the car, and you decide to sell that car for a down payment for your home and for your family, you can sell the car, use that money for a down payment for your home. You can do that as well. There's a lot of different ways that you can come up with a down payment. It's just very important that when you're working with a loan officer, preferably me, that you explain how you're coming up with your down payment, especially if we start off from the beginning and there's no money in your account for a down payment, so that we can help structure and help you purchase a home. So it's very important to let us know that each loan program has different down payment requirements. So depending on your income and credit, you can look at as low as 1%. You can look at down payment 1% with conventional, or you can look at down payments close to 3% or 5% compared to conventional, but it is going to depend on your situation. 0%. With FHA, you have a 0% down payment, which comes into play with your down payment assistance programs going FHA. So you can go to closing table with a 0 down payment. You can go to the closing table with FHA going 3.5%, or depending on your credit, you could go 10% down with FHA, but that's all going to depend on your credit. So definitely work with me so I can be able to structure a game plan to help you out to make the best decision that's going to work best for you. And other programs such as USDA offers 100% financing. However, you have to make sure that the property that you are purchasing is considered a rural area. It has to be in a certain area to qualify for that 100% financing. Now, if you don't qualify for the USDA 100% financing and you're a veteran, thank you for your service, you can qualify for your VA loan program. And that offers up to 100% financing depending on your situation. Now, if two married individuals are purchasing a home using the VA loan program, you can get 100% financing. Now, if it's an individual, for example, brother and a sister that is not in the military, then the down payment will change. But it's going to depend on the situation, and that's why you work with a loan officer like myself to help you structure a perfect game plan to help you out.